Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Walton. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hello, good morning everybody. How you doing today? It is Wednesday, September 28th, 2016. That sounded unusually chipper. I have no particular reason to be unusually chipper, but, well, I don't know. What do you say? Anybody like to do a radio program next? I think we ought to give it a try anyway. Daily Co's Radio is live now, as Bill reminds us, all the way from Portland, Maine. And once again, Kagro X, that's me. And you can reach me that way easiest on Twitter, at KagroX. Add that KITM hashtag in order to make sure I actually have a chance to see it. I'll tell you a little bit about why that is. But we're once again ready to ignore the 400-pound hacker on the bed in the room. And you have to, because those guys, they're persistent and they're hard to move and hard to hide, really. So next we'll be talking to Melania Trump about her decorating tips for decorating around a 400-pound hacker on your bed, or anyone else's for that matter. I think the prescription is probably gold and lots of it. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why there's so much gold all over. They need to outweigh the hackers hiding in I don't know. That tweet still going strong, among others. The series of tweets that I sent out yesterday morning, just at the beginning of the show, right before the beginning of yesterday's show, and in fact, a couple of them during the opening of yesterday's show. The one of Melania pushing Barron's baby carriage, or as they are calling it in the second or third wave of retweets from overseas, pram, the baby pram. I've never gotten used to that term. But I guess pushing it like in the lobby of I don't know where this is, this gilded room in the Trump Tower somewhere, I guess. And you've seen it, the over-decorated place. And the over-decorated baby carriage and everything. That's the one that seems to have caught fire, I think. Well, let's just click on one here. And I've been going to check how often has this been retweeted, and it's moving so quickly, my notifications column, as they call it in TweetDeck, that I have a hard time clicking on one in order to get it to open up. But we currently stand at 16,842 retweets. 24,169 likes. Thanks so much for all the, I don't know what likes really, I think you sort of like a bookmark is the way people often treat that, or just, hey, I saw that and I thought it was funny and I don't want to bother everybody else with the retweet of it. So thanks for all the attention, and there's been some celebrity attention for it recently, and it's hard to tell, but you see them with the little check marks, of course. The super duper famous people have them, but also the Twitter famous people occasionally have them too. Just out of curiosity, I went thumbing through it yesterday because I saw one go by that raised my eyebrows. Minnie Driver had, retweeted. Okay, it's always fun when you sort of reach through the movie screen a little bit there and say, oh, hey, a person that I know, and it's not easy for me to figure out who you are. You got to be pretty mega famous for me to understand that you're a actual celebrity. I mean, if you're cover of the tabloids, cover of the magazines, maybe, but usually I spend my time in the shopping, in the grocery store waiting to check out, saying, I don't understand who is this? But I guess if you make it to the cover of the gold standard for Donald Trump, People magazine, then I'll figure out who you are. But Minnie Driver, Sarah Silverman, who of course we all know not only from her comedy but from the Democratic National Convention. I guess that should be no surprise to us. A lot of people are just enjoying that series of ironic photos, although they did decorate their home unironically. You should be sure of that. So lots of activity this morning, making it difficult for me to monitor what else is going on. For that purpose, of course, Greg Dworkin serves marvelously. Good morning, Greg. How you doing? Uh-oh.
Hey, how are you today?
All right. I'm good. I got panicked there for a second. Did you have your mute on or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to fix my my TweetDeck so it didn't just bing, bing, bing the entire time we were looking here.
Thank you. I think everyone appreciates that.
I don't always
movie
remember,
besides that?
but when I do, I always like to do it.
Terrific. Okay.
So what's new?
I don't know for sure because I haven't been able to see any news. Usually, my usual source is clogged with retweets of this thing and then occasional admonishments from deplorables about, don't you understand that's his private wealth, and if we try to tell him what to do with it, something communism, end of America, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Well, speaking of deplorables, did you know the Anti-Defamation League declared Pepe the Frog a hate symbol, symbol of bigotry?
Congratulations, Pepe.
Right,
You
so
made it.
Frog Twitter makes it into the big time, and of course, I'm sure they're thrilled.
Yes, that will thrill them, and that will prove that there was no Holocaust, I think, somehow for them.
They love when normies, just pay attention to them.
Yeah.
That was Time magazine, so I thought that was of interest.
Okay.
Another thing of interest this morning, before we get to the post-debate news, which I think is most interesting, is the New York Post today. New York Post has a big front page headline here, eating his words,
Oh, I just saw it.
and it's Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Christie lied, laughed
Not a
about
hacker.
Bridgegate, and there's a big, large Chris Christie, and with the headline "Eating His Words," implication being, of course, that he lied during the Bridgegate thing, and he really was responsible. So remember, folks, when you hear all of these comments about, oh, if only somebody other than Donald Trump had been running against Hillary Clinton, then it would have been a rout, right? Like Chris Christie, for example.
Yeah, although I guess, I suppose, I have no other
Jeb
phrase.
Bush represents no change whatsoever and takes away the only thing that Trump has as a weapon. That one, or Kasich, who has the same problem? I don't think so.
Yeah, they. Although if it had been Christie, you can be sure they would have delayed the trial so as not to affect the election, and we all would have gone through the election, and only afterwards. had
Jersey,
he
why
lost.
wouldn't they have speeded it up?
I don't know. That's the whole thing is about slowing things down in Jersey, and yeah, they probably would have pushed it to after the trial, and we would have ended up having the election, and then finding out, oh my God, the guy's a total corrupt nightmare.
Well, I think we already knew that.
Well,
Anyway, I'm
we
just
guessed.
making the point that, all of these counterfactuals about how X would have done better is always based on the idea that nobody ever would have attacked them for anything. And that when you're not running, you always look better than when you are. So just as something to keep in mind.
Yes.
There's a good Walter Shapiro column, which is in Roll Call, which talks about Donald Trump's trickle-down economics and how that was actually one of the weapons that Hillary Clinton used during the debate to attack him. And it's interesting because her weak spot in the debate was on trade and TPP. I think that was probably the only hit that Trump did in an otherwise debacle for him. But not on the economy.
No.
She actually won the debate on the economy, which is different than trade. So Trump's thinking that somehow or other he won the first 30 minutes and then faded is actually, arguably not true.
Okay, we should argue it.
We could, but, the bigger deal, of course, is that he lost the whole thing.
Yes.
And one other thing to mention before I forget is apparently at midnight the House struck a deal on Flint funding.
Oh, yes.
Ending a shutdown threat. I don't know how that's going to work. They're actually going to have to vote on these things, right? They can't just decide, yeah, we agreed to put it up for a vote, but you don't know what the vote result is going to be. Until you do that, you don't really know what's going on.
True. Well, it's a good day to have that happen because it's Joan McCarter Day.
Yeah, so hopefully you'll get some information about that.
That would be good.
And now I have a quick tweet storm to read to
Okay.
you from Ariel Bruce, BROSSE,
Everyone loved this one.
on Donald Trump and the price extracted by a deadbeat employer.
Yes.
Short but sweet. I said it before. I grew up in Atlantic City. She said, my parents, my friends' parents, my neighbors, they all worked in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's systematic monopolization of trade, mismanagement of funds, and destruction of community there is personal to me. As a matter of course, he hired small local businesses as contractors, did not pay them, and then filed bankruptcy. Remember, this was part of the Clinton debate strategy to bring this up.
Yeah.
Take a moment to consider how much money you'd be able to amass if you didn't pay your bills and then got people to forgive you for it.
Yes.
Remember, this is on top of not paying taxes. But also consider what it's like to be the small business owner who gets on huge glittery contract and then never gets paid. They had an architect on MSNBC last night talking about that, who got a great, referral letter from Trump. This guy's great. You should really use him. But, of course, got stiffed for over $100,000 worth of business. And it's a big, big, big deal when you do that to people. And they remember, and they come on and they tell everybody else about it. And is that going to affect the election? Maybe. Anyway, she says, you promised prosperity. You're sucked in with catchphrases and dreams. You lay out your own capital and labor. You're left with empty hands. Trump orchestrated his own mini version of the housing bubble in my hometown. He came in, he prospected, we're left dragging his failures. The people in my mother's labor union have lost their retirement funds because he built a business based on gold leaf and marquee lighting. He's an ego, a character, a joke. But that joke is human cost. It's financially and culturally destroyed the town I grew up in. And we get to hear him brag about how it means he's a great businessman. It's insulting. It's gaslighting to watch a man destroy you. And to hear him tell other people how good and powerful it makes him. To see them believing it. Please don't believe it. Please stand on the side of the worker. Please help defeat him. These stakes are personal to me. Trust me, I've seen firsthand the damage he can do in a home community. A nation would be catastrophe. And then there's an amplifying of this story. She tweets a link to Donald Trump's Atlantic City business dealings, which, quote, spark controversy, end quote.
Yeah.
So
That's
all of that is
one.
in the background, and what happens is you digest all of this stuff as you go about trying to make your mind up as to who to vote for. You have the debates, and it seems, as we said yesterday when we started to talk about it, that Clinton cleaned Trump's clock in so many different ways, and that Trump made it worse by going on national TV and relitigating the fat shaming that he did of the Miss Universe, who happens to be a Latina, which doesn't help him with that particular voting segment that he was not doing well with anyway. And the Trump team gets on and argues they won when they didn't win, and they try to spin when they can't, work with material that can't be spun. And then what happens is that the conventional wisdom starts to set in stone, and then you can't change it anymore. And by this morning, it's pretty clear he lost, and he lost badly. And we actually have our first post-debate poll out.
Yay.
And it's from Morning Consult, and Clinton picked up 4 points to cut to the bottom line there. So what happened is that in their pre-debate, Trump had led Clinton by 1 in the 4-way race, and now leads Trump by 3. And in a head-to-head, I think it was tied. She now leads by 4. That's 45 to 41. And what's remarkable for a Morning Consult poll, which is done online, and it's quick. It was a Monday, Tuesday turnaround. So there's more to come, and there's more of this conventional wisdom to sink in as people realize 3, 4, 5 days down the road that, he won, he lost and she won. But the 45 to 41 actually represents a bit of an increase in terms of getting undecided voters off the fence, and also getting some perhaps third-party people off the fence. She's at 41% in the 4-way, and Trump is at 38, 45 to 41 in the 2-way. And Trump still has this low 40s ceiling that he just can't seem to overcome. And we talked a little bit about focus groups yesterday. There's nothing that Trump did in the 24 hours after the debate, let alone the debate, that's going to convince people who weren't already voting for him to vote for him. And if anything, he may have alienated them and pushed them away. So the real post-debate polling will be done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll start to see results Friday and Saturday, maybe as early as Thursday, but more likely Friday, Saturday. And so the models, like the 538 model, the Daily Coast model that looks at state polling and such, that's going to take another day or two to change. So if you're looking at 538, for example, what are the chances of winning and so on and so forth, you're going to have to look at that Monday, Tuesday at the earliest. But the actual poll results you'll be able to start to see Friday, Saturday.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to it, although I won't talk about it until Monday.
Okay.
I'll save it until the analysis is done. That's my reasoning.
That's always a good thing. So Nate Silver predicts that there will be at least, well, put it this way. Generally speaking, you do get a little bit of a point shift if you've had a great debate. And if she doesn't, he thinks she's in trouble, although the Morning Consult first poll out says she does. So, again, no reason to be overly concerned about it at this particular point, other than that we're always concerned about everything.
Yeah. All right, well.
I thought there was a terrific column from Greg Sargent yesterday, which posted late in the afternoon. Job one for Clinton at the debate, energize Democrats. In other words, you're not trying to persuade Trump voters not to vote for Trump or to go from Trump to Clinton. That's simply not going to happen.
Okay.
What you want to do is you want to energize your own voters first, and then secondly, if there are those undecided, uncommitted, and maybe even third party, you might want to get some of those too. Okay. So we're seeing voting rates among African Americans, Latinos, and young people going up, and for the first time, the estimate is the young people could represent 25% of the vote, Clinton said. This highlights one of the key goals that Clinton tried to accomplish during the debate. One has gotten lost in discussion of whether she appealed to swing voters or provoked Trump into revealing his inner madman. Speaking directly to core groups in the Democratic coalition, this was about consolidation Democratic pollster Stan Greenberg, who conducted dial sessions gauging voter responses to the debate, told me today, adding his previous polling has indicated to him the challenge he faced is failure to consolidate Democrats. As James Hohmann reports, one of my favorite reporters at the Washington Post, even some GOP strategists have noted that focus groups appeared to show undecided swing voters favoring her performance. Top Dems were also watching for Clinton to take big steps toward energizing core Dem constituencies, Latinos, African Americans, unmarried women. That's why that whole Miss Universe thing was such a big deal. And toward bringing into the fold voters drifting to minor parties, which is to say young voters. As former Obama advisors Plouffe and Messina argued, Clinton needed to give such voters more of a reason to be passionate about her candidacy and a clearer sense of what motivates her and where she'd take the country. This would hopefully convert registered Dem-leaning voters into likely or certain voters, while beginning to persuade voters horrified by Trump but alienated by Clinton and tempted by Johnson and Stein to reconsider her. So, during the debate, he writes, Clinton repeatedly returned to laying out the same programmatic agenda she did in her convention speech, pushing increased spending on infrastructure, job creation, and clean energy, pay equity, family and medical leave, minimum wage hike, college debt relief. Such proposals are broadly popular but might have juiced up appeal to core Dem voters, with millennials in particular favoring debt-free college and action on the minimum wage and climate change. And note that Clinton attacked Trump's climate denialism. Millennials disproportionately support Johnson and Stein, Democratic pollster Mark Meldman told me, so she articulated an agenda that was appealing to them, growth that is shared by everyone, plus job creation and college affordability. Now, as I mention that, let me also mention that if you look at the focus groups, sometimes you find the focus groups frustrating.
Yes.
Okay? You find them frustrating because you'll talk to them, or the media will talk to them and tell you what it is that they are seeing by talking to the focus groups. And the focus groups will say things like, well, Trump was crazy, he was ridiculous, he was offensive, I can't see myself supporting some of the things that he said, many of the things that he said, maybe even most of the things that he said. She was strong, she was clear, she was fairly articulate in terms of where she wants to go. I just can't make up my mind.
Huh. Well,
and there's a
are you
Guardian
sure there's
story,
one in there?
And you go, wait a minute. As Joy Reid put it, Lord save us from undecided voters.
Yeah, I do.
The point there is that they are, for the most part, conservative Republicans who feel alienated by the party. And that being the case, and I'm going to send you over that link just because I thought it was so fascinating.
I love links.
They don't want to vote for Clinton, but they can't vote for Trump.
Yeah.
And that's why they feel so conflicted. But that's not the majority of voters by any means. Some of the interesting things that the Morning Consult poll found is that 9%, the way they put it, is only 9%, but I think 9% is a huge number, changed their mind.
Okay.
Because of the debate.
Only 9, eh? Yeah.
They write is it's a clear victory for Clinton. It comes as both national and state polls have tightened over the past several weeks. 1/3 of voters said debate performance would be very important in how they vote, and 29% said it would be somewhat important. And a third said not at all. Okay? 9% of voters said the debate changed their minds about who they'll be voting for, while about 8 out of 10 said it wouldn't. We know that 8 out of 10 voters have already decided. Maybe it's even a little higher than that. I put it at 85 the other day when we were talking. But that still leaves 15, and that's enough to make a difference when you're talking about a relatively small lead for Clinton.
Yes.
It's not a wide race. She has a lead. But, if you're going to add 3 or 4 points to that, as this poll says, that's pretty good.
Okay. I would say so. So not a bad report, really.
Not a bad report, really. So, yes, the undecided voters are going to drive you crazy, but don't get too crazy about it. Anyway, back to what the pollsters and the gurus are reporting here, as per Greg Sargent. Meanwhile, Dem pollster Greenberg says his dial sessions last night revealed that some of these constituencies, in particular white millennials and unmarried women, responded to Clinton's targeted appeals. He said unmarried women responded positively to the sections laying out Clinton's economic agenda, while millennials responded to Clinton's defense of Obama and her discussion of racism as an enduring societal problem. And this gets at a broader story, which has been discussed by Ron Brownstein and Bill Scher. Clinton, following Obama, is increasingly aligning the Democratic Party with constituencies that welcome diversifying America. And as part of that process, she's energizing its core voter groups by eschewing white grievance and by fully engaging the battle against Trump's racism, which she was very clear and articulate about, calling him a racist and calling him out on the birther stuff. And that was a big deal. We'll have to wait for comprehensive, high-quality polling taking after last night's debate to judge whether Clinton's efforts will pay off. But one thing to watch closely is increased signs of Dem consolidation behind Clinton, including whether she begins to haul in more of the Johnson-Stein vote. And then there's actually a much more detailed, if anybody is interested in the Greenberg-Quinlan research on the dial stuff.
Ah, okay.
I haven't seen that yet, so I'm just going to put it up and take a look.
All right, why not? We'll analyze it right here.
Key groups: persuadable voters, white unmarried women, millennials, white non-college persuadable, and college-educated persuadable. Okay, not a lot here about people of color. So progressive economic agenda gets a rave response. Lines on the polling dials here are showed so you can see. And lines rise at ending offshoring of jobs, but they diverge at the tax plan. Okay? Mm-hmm. And when Trump starts to talk about reducing taxes tremendously, that was okay. But not always completely and totally accepted. On his business, when he says, the more we invest in you, your education and skills, your future, the better off we'll be. This is something that Clinton said. Trump, on his business, and the way he describes business, didn't help his case any. Trickle-down Trump loopholes or inclusive growth, that really helped her a lot. When Clinton talked about, and again, that's what Walter Shapiro mentioned, this trickle-down stuff Democrats have been using for years and years, probably going back to Herbert Hoover. It still works.
Yeah. Well, and this is a particularly good case to use it in, too.
Right. The business practices, people very much paid attention when Clinton talked about the fact I've met a lot of the people who were stiffed by you and your businesses, that whole Atlantic City thing that we read. That registered pretty well in just about every different category. Trump's reassurance on race and policing did anything but. Lost a lot of people on that. The gun control stuff with if you're on a no-fly list, you ought to not be able to buy a gun, was a hit. And there was a huge and classy
good
millennial support for Obama birther defense that Clinton gave.
Okay.
Millennials like that as much as anything else they like in the entire debate.
I wonder why that is.
And then when Clinton went after Trump about I was against the Iraq War, and she said, no, you weren't.
And so did Lester Holt.
Trump's defense dropped. When Holt corrected him, it dropped for Trump. So that was not good. And support for global leadership was a big hit for Clinton. I mean, you go through this in terms of looking at the dials. We have some numbers here. So, pre-speech, Clinton looks after the middle class, was 50, post-speech 68. That went up 18 points. And this one was interesting. Honest and trustworthy, you know that's been a big issue. Pre-speech, she got a 30. Post-speech, she got a 45. She helped herself by 15 points there. On the economy, pre-speech 48, post-speech 62. That went up 14 points. Excited if she becomes president, 44 pre-speech, 57 post-speech. So she increased that by 13 points. 8 points on clear vision for the future. 9 points on fight to bring change. She went from 52 to 61 on that. So in terms of changes, if this is a change election, she wins points on that. That's going to help her. And keeping the country safe, she was already high, 56. That went up 6 points to 62. And strong leader, she went from 62 to 66. So those are big gains in favorability. And on the personal favorability, Trump went up 15, Clinton went up 32.
Oh, okay. How did Trump go up even? But
yeah, Trump went up from a minus 39 to a minus 24.
Oh, all right. Well, that helps.
Clinton went from a minus 3 to a plus 29.
That is different.
Right? So those are pretty helpful. And in terms of who's better on this, Clinton or Trump, better economy, Clinton went up 9 points. Create more jobs, Clinton went up 8 points. Stands for America, Clinton went up 6 points. For the middle class, Clinton went up 6 points. Right approach to taxes, Clinton plus 4. Tells the truth, plus 4. And again, her one thing that she doesn't do well on, right approach to trade agreement, she had a minus 7. That's the only thing in the entire debate that you'd have to say Trump won on that.
Huh. Okay.
Which
is not to say that he has a plan for anything.
For a 15-round fight, Trump got in a jab in the first round. The rest of the time he got pounded.
Yeah. So he got the big points on saying, that thing over there that somebody else worked on, that sucks.
And
okay.
I'm associating it with you.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. And that's not even such a bad association either. It's just that the one point comes from everybody agrees that I have said that something that sucks actually kind of does. Okay. Well, what's your idea for how to deal with it? I don't know. Probably me making more things in China. Okay. Sure.
Now,
good deal.
According to this, she still didn't sell the millennials. They're going to be the slowest group, it looks like, to come around.
They're artisanal about these things.
But white unmarried women, Clinton went up 10 points.
Okay.
At the expense of Johnson, who went down.
Oh.
Now, interestingly, so millennials, in terms of the vote, actually Trump did a little bit better with millennials after watching this, which is pretty amazing. According to this, Clinton was 70, and then post-speech was 65. Trump was 22, and then went up to 26. So, for unclear reasons. And this looked to be Johnson people leaving Johnson and going to Trump, not Clinton people going to Trump. So, this is not totally out of the range of the possible. One might argue that Trump's improvement in the last week or so actually is exactly that. In other words, Trump picking up the last of the I'm a Republican and I don't know, and I was a never Trumper, I don't know, I can't vote for Clinton, I'm tribal, I'm going to have to vote for Trump. So he's consolidating that, and he's consolidating faster than she is. And that may be the explanation for how come the polls tightened over the last week or so, regardless of any big event happening. That leaves her voters to consolidate, and we'll see how well she does after that. With white unmarried women, she went up 10 points. From 54 to 64. And in a two-way vote, she went from 61 to 68. So she picked up 7 points on who I was going to vote for with white unmarried women. Okay? White working class. This is interesting. In a four-way vote, Clinton was 41% pre-speech and 50% post-speech. She picked up 9 points with white non-college persuadables. She picked up 9. Trump picked up 4. Johnson picked up 1, and Stein picked up 1. In other words, if you really were not deciding, and you weren't a third or fourth party person already, Clinton picked up the most. And in a two-way vote, Clinton went from 47 to 57 with white non-college persuadables. and Trump went from 38 to 32.
Okay.
She was leading with, I'm not sure what to do, white working class. A lot of the white working classes are ready for Trump.
I'm not sure what to do.
The ones that weren't deciding yet. In a two-way vote pre-speech, she was leading Trump 47-38. They were leaning her. And post-speech, 57-32.
All
so
right.
she did herself good with that particular group. So what it tells us is that she made pretty big strides with white unmarried women, with working class persuadables to cut Trump's margin down a little bit there, and still has work to do with millennials. Above and beyond, between the ferns, above and beyond this debate.
You can't just do between two ferns once and be done?
Yeah.
No wonder we have such a long campaign.
Right. Now, I think, as I said, I think the millennials who are still holding out will come around. Not all of them, of course, but many of them. But I think they will be the slowest. I think it'll take for them to see, oh my goodness, it is a close race. My vote actually may matter one way or the other. I think that's the only thing that's going to wind up convincing them. They really don't like our current system. They really would like to have a completely different kind of politics. You can't, at least not for this election. The rest of the country is not ready for that. Yeah, you're right about it, but the rest of the country isn't ready for that. And these are your choices, and you're going to have to choose. And nobody likes hearing that, and so they're going to put it off for the last minute.
All right. Well, we'll have to allow for that, I suppose. I can't figure out a way around it.
That's not dumping on them. That's just, this is where it's at.
Yeah. Okay, so don't hit anybody.
No, I like your politics. Take your time. Do the right thing.
Yes. Be sure to be there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
anyway, so that's basically what I'm seeing today. We can read to you some of the really pretty harsh views of Donald Trump, which in fact we are getting. Robert Schlesinger writing in U.S. News. This is all from the pundit roundup I did today. Rather long because there's a lot of things that people had to say. Clinton came across as calm, relaxed, and in command. Trump tried to repeatedly talk over her, a classic Trumpian dominance ritual, but she ignored him and serenely plowed on through. His attempts to demonstrate his own strength by throwing her off only ended up looking pathetic because she didn't take the bait. Erica Grider, conservative, Texas Monthly, the night Trump unraveled. Making matters worse for Trump is a general consensus. He performed relatively well during the first half or so of the debate, only to deteriorate badly by the end. The guy's got no stamina. I personally didn't think he did particularly well during the first half hour either. I didn't. I agree with you, Erica. Which was nominally focused on economic issues. That might be a reflection of my own biases in favor of NAFTA, which he vigorously assailed, but his repeated interruptions and interjections during Clinton's responses struck me as yet another measure of the man's lack of impulse control. In any case, we can all agree he deteriorated badly at the end. Yeah.
Oh, another thing we can all agree on. This is great.
Yeah. James Holman, again, Washington Post, the Daily 202, why even Republicans think Clinton won the first debate. The consensus that Donald Trump badly lost the first debate gelled overnight. Liberals predictably panned the GOP's nominee's performance, but some of the harshest reviews are coming from conservative thought leaders who have been starting to come around. Okay, and then we talked about that Greg Sargent piece, and again, we read you the numbers, but to remind you what he said, Dem pollster Greenberg says his dial sessions last night revealed that some of those constituencies, in particular white millennials and unmarried women, responded to Clinton's targeted appeals.
Or they just like dials.
Yeah. Let's see. Tim Alberta, National Review. It's quite possible that the media's consensus conclusion of an obvious victory for Clinton, that viewers at home scored it much closer or even considered it a draw, said this conservative. We won't know for at least 4 days, and perhaps a little longer as pollsters go in the field this week to measure the debate's impact on public opinion. But this much is clear. Clinton needs a solid bounce because Monday night couldn't have gone much better or much worse for her opponent. We've heard for weeks that September 26th would be the most important day of the campaign. Remember, that was the conventional wisdom before the debate, and the conventional wisdom after the debate was, she won, so what? If such a lopsided performance doesn't translate into a comfortable lead for Clinton heading into the home stretch, then perhaps nothing will. Interestingly, if you talk to Plouffe and Messina, and not the Clinton campaign who's being quiet about this, but the former Obama people who understand the analytics and how things work, they say, almost to a person, that media polls are crap.
No.
What do they mean by that? What they do is through voter rolls, they model let's take Ohio for the sake of argument. They model who is voting in Ohio. And they don't look to see, are you voting for me, you're not voting me. They take 100% of the population and assign them.
Yes.
Right? So they know, or they think they know, what every segment of the population is going to do. Of that 100%, maybe 55% will come to the polls. Of that 55%, we know who our voters are. We know who their voters are. We know who probably won't show, or if they do show, is going to vote for a third party. And we're going to go to our group, our bucket of non-deplorables, and we're going to spend all our money making sure that our people show up.
Okay.
That's a very different way of looking at a place like Ohio than it would be for looking at the polls and say, okay, well, Clinton seems to have a 3-point deficit there. You may get to the same place in the end, but it's just a very, very different way of looking at it, and they're not swayed by the polls go up or down because they know who their group of people are and they know who they have to motivate to get out to the polls, and that's what they do. That's what they're spending all the time working on. That's how come they raised all that money. You may not be seeing it in television ads and so on and so forth. Now, Plouffe, who is not part of this campaign, thinks that she's going to win every one of the swing states, every single one of them, including Ohio. He even thinks she's going to win Iowa. I have trouble with that one. I think that Trump's going to win Iowa.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I don't know about Ohio. I do think, and he said, winning Pennsylvania is just fantasy. Not going to happen. It's the Easter Bunny. Go chase after it.
New Jersey.
So he figures whatever the polls say. The polls said a 2-point lead. He said whatever the polls say, Pennsylvania is not in question. And he thinks they'll win North Carolina. He thinks they'll win Florida. Armando thinks they'll win Florida too by about 5 points. And so if you do, and that Colorado really isn't that close. And if those things are true, she wins the election. So Tim Alberta's point is, and I've seen Nate Silver say the same thing, and I scratch my head a little bit about it. It's like, she's got a 2-point lead, all right? Let's concede that she's actually ahead. What if it doesn't grow? That means that she's in trouble. That's basically what Tim Alberta's saying. And I'm thinking, well, she has a 2-point lead, and it's a 2-point lead, and it stays a 2-point lead. That sounds to me like a 2-point lead. So
2-point lead is what you're saying.
Well, that's what Real Clear Politics is. Actually, it's probably closer to 4.
Oh, okay. So you just said a 2-point lead.
And it might even, add up to more than that.
But you did say 2-point lead twice, so that's 4 points.
Yeah, I get that. So that being the case,
Abby, how many points?
Bottom line is she's not trailing, and I just don't see how people can spin a lead into being behind, which is what a lot of these folks like to do. And it's based on the false idea that there's somehow this magic momentum, big mo, that's going to change everything. And that just never happens. It's not how elections work.
Well, we love the myth of the October surprise, and that's
exactly.
a week away.
Yep. Anyway, that's the story for now. So
right.
I just thought I'd sum up what I'm seeing and let you know. Today's Wednesday. Hopefully Joe McCart will be on, talk a little bit more about Congress and what's going on with this continuing resolution. We don't want Congress to shut down. That would be a bad thing.
Yes. In a way.
In a way?
Because it takes the country with it. That's the problem. If there was any way to just shut that part down.
If we could just, saw off Congress and let it drift out to sea, we'd be all right with that. Yes. But it takes us with them, and that is a problem.
Yeah, well,
anyway, this is Greg Dworkin speaking with my friend David Waldman, otherwise known as Kagro in the Morning. It's his show, and that's what you're listening to. And thanks so much for ever doing that. However you do it, whether it's download, podcast, we're very grateful. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll do it again.
Okay, woof.
Woof.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, my doorbell's going off. So
I know. I hope there's something good at the door.
Yeah.
Send some to me. Whatever.
All righty.
Okay.
Take care.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Greg. You do the same. We'll talk to you again later in the week. Tomorrow. Tomorrow's not usually meeting day, so we'll be good for tomorrow. Sometimes Friday, but cross our fingers we get an extra session this week. We'll see. Okay. What's happening? What have I been reminded of? There's an awful lot flying by still, of course, on Twitter. Here's something that Greg's discussion reminded me of as we were talking about the effectiveness of the trickle-down attack from Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. I think resonates particularly well with someone like him, of course, who in classic trickle-down theory and here's what I think he's counting on, is able to point to himself as one of those tremendously wealthy individuals from whom jobs and money trickle, really, downward. The fact that he's amassed so much wealth, not only is it not concerning, it's a positive development in his mind. Well, of course, because he gets to enjoy all that wealth, but it's a positive development for everyone else, too, according to classic conservative, or what has become known as conservative economic theory. And what does it mean? And everyone knows by now that means that when they get their hands on that much money, the usual claim is, well, I create jobs with it. Trump, of course, hasn't created a job ever. I mean, or at least in many, many decades. He doesn't make things anymore. He licenses his name to others who make things. And I guess he could try to argue in a one-off sort of way, well, they're creating jobs and I'm helping them do it. They're building condos that they can sell more readily because I'm lending my name to it, and I suppose there's an argument to be made there. But here's what learning more about Trump's history, personal history, financial history, business history, etc., tells us about these things. Both the stories we've heard and the pictures that we're able to circulate about his insane house. And I started to do it a little bit while we were talking to Greg, using the Twitter machine to do it. This is the thing. It's only trickle down if you pay your people, if you pay your contractors. If Donald Trump creates jobs because he builds a casino, the trickle down effect here is he amasses billions of dollars, but he passes out millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in construction costs and to contractors and people who supply how many people we heard were stiffed in Atlantic City. That tweet storm that we went through right at the beginning encapsulates a lot of it, but we heard some very specific stories about the guy who sold pianos to the Trump casinos, which, by the way, I wonder if any of those pianos ended up in his house, and maybe that's the one Melania is reclining on in the infamous photo. I wonder whether they actually bought that thing outright. But take a look at those things. Take a look at the pictures that I sent out under the I didn't pay taxes because you would have squandered it line. And you can update it, as I did with Twitter, to point out, not only does it not pay taxes because you would have squandered the money anyway, but I didn't pay the decorators. And that's called business, by the way. That's another of his famous lines, or infamous lines, from the debate. This is how he operates. The whole justification of his, it's going to be okay that he amasses such wealth, and it's even okay that he spends so extravagantly on himself, because after all, lots of libertarians are tweeting at me, who are we to say how he should spend his money? Besides which, if he spends all that money on gold crap, that's his business. Somebody gets paid for making and selling all that stuff. Except no, they don't. He stiffs them. And here's another thing. I'm not all that sure that that's terribly unusual among that sector, that 1% of 1% of 1%. I think it's a pretty common thing and pretty commonly accepted among the ultra wealthy that they don't really have to pay for that many things, that they've got leverage, and that the leverage is exactly what we heard in yesterday's program was the case with the Republican operative whose father was stiffed on, what did he say, a 6-figure telecom contract, right? Trump pretty regularly tells people either, one, I'm going to pay you 10 cents on the dollar for the contract because I think you did crappy work, And then he negotiates. Sometimes he goes back and forth. Sometimes he'll end up paying, he'll offer 20%, 25%. He'll string you along because ultimately he knows just what he told Brian Walsh's dad's company. I'm not going to pay you at all, whether I'm happy with the job or not, because I know it will cost you more to sue me for the money than you'll get even if you win and get the money. So here's what's going to happen. If anything, I'll offer you 10 cents on the dollar. If I really don't like you, I'll just say you got to sue me and see how you can do on your own. Oh, wow. All the volume is turned way, way up on the background stuff here. I'll have to see if I can sneak away to try and turn that down. But otherwise, in the meantime, you all get to hear my message machine every time somebody calls the house. I still have to there's something I really should look into one weekend is finding another phone system that I can mute. I used to have one that I could mute, and now I have one that does not mute and that I can't keep quiet during the show for whatever reason. And that's probably because everything's getting crappier in the world is the real reason for it. Anyway, so I think an important point to remember, he doesn't participate in the trickle-down economy. He doesn't pay the taxes, and maybe, libertarians say that's okay because he puts money into circulation in other ways, and he really doesn't. And he certainly doesn't do it on a market basis, or I guess ultra-libertarians would say certainly he does. The market value of the goods and services that people are providing to him are the amount of money that exchanges hands. If a contractor agrees to provide these goods and services for the settlement amount, so be it. That's the invisible hand at work, although it's really not, of course, because that kind of economic thinking depends on people being at least on, if not equal terms, then somewhat equal terms. I think that's an underlying assumption. But maybe not. Maybe that's baked into the cake. In which case, I would say, the other problem with this is, of course, to say after the fact, well, this person agreed to provide these goods and services for this price. No, they didn't. They agreed to provide it for this other price, and he agreed to pay it. And based on that agreement, the transaction started. The labor was provided, or the goods and services were delivered, and then Trump decides he's not going to honor the agreement. And then he leverages what? By the way, think about that. What is it that he's leveraging? He's leveraging, on the first level, the knowledge, the understanding that the contractor has of how much it costs to pursue a lawsuit and how much additional non-cash costs. There are other economic costs that come with it, but the headache, essentially, that goes along with suing somebody, you add that all up and you realize, I'm in no position to get what I'm supposed to get here, so I might have to settle for something else. Where does that leverage come from? The leverage comes from Trump's knowledge, his security in the knowledge that in order to get paid in this country, when a debtor decides, for whatever reason, good or bad, not to make good on their debts, the system we've got for getting satisfaction for that is a governmental system. It's the judicial system. You got to take somebody to court. All of that court costs paid for, of course, by people who are supposed to be paying into the system, paying taxes, which it appears he's simply not doing. So he's not even paying for the judicial system that he's using to leverage free stuff for himself, or nearly free stuff, or stuff at a steep discount. But, some cases I'm sure people file in federal court, others people file in state court, but it doesn't really matter. It's governmental leverage nonetheless. That doesn't even get to the fact that he is leveraging so much money out of the system directly in terms of tax abatements and tax deductions and subsidies of all kinds from the government, both the state, federal, and local. This guy lives his whole life on the dole, but he doesn't look like it to people who don't analyze it any deeper than look at all that gold and what a nice suit. And he keeps saying it's private money, and I've got to convince myself that it's private money too, or else I don't know what exactly. I'm not sure what the great disaster is if you finally admit to yourself that there's a great interdependence even in the free market, the invisible hand, etc. However you want to put it. It has to, the invisible hand has to touch a lot of people to make this a market and make it work. But for whatever reason, people like to think of, it's difficult to conceive of yourself as part of a larger than life whole, I guess, and it's comforting to think of yourself as an individual, and people like it, and it's a nice buzzword sometimes, individualism, and I pulled myself up by my bootstraps, and I'm self-made, and that's the more popular myth, certainly, than it's easier to do than coming to the understanding that there's a million moving parts to everything. But anyway, that's the main point I think I wanted to make about this argument and the mention of trickle down, etc. This is a major part of it. Even the trickle down excuse doesn't work for Trump because he's not allowing any of the trickling. He's just stealing and just using the power, basically, of the government to beat people down and force them to accept considerably less. What's the alternative? I mean, I don't love the alternative. Of course, the alternative is, I guess, returning to some sort of state of nature, and you could just have essentially the disgruntled contractors, and there are many of them, band together. And I suppose there's a ways to do this extrajudicially, right? Even without pulling down and destroying the system of government in the United States. Well, they could use the invisible hand too. We're going to contract with Blackwater to murder this guy who owes us so much money. That is illegal. You will end up dealing with the court system. But on the other hand, some of you may get away with it. You never know. So you maybe want to roll the dice. I don't advocate this. I like the system we have, but of course the system we have has got to work. And when it's manipulated by somebody else, who's asking, by the way, for the keys to the rest of it, you got to take note of what kind of manipulator this guy is. He's already using far more, leveraging far more of the government's power to his benefit, his personal benefit, than we ought to be allowing anyone to do. He wants still more, and no one can tell why, because he's got plenty to go. He's got plenty to deal with as it is. Is there anything this guy is wanting for? Now he wants the non-economic benefits of being president. He wants the bragging rights, essentially. And maybe he thinks he can really make a super-duper score. And as we've been talking about, maybe he's not as rich as he says he is, and he figures that if he really actually owned the reins of government himself, maybe he could make himself that rich. I don't really know. Anyway, let's see. Other fun things that we ought to touch on before we get around to speaking with Joan. No delay necessary in my mind. I'd say any time would be a good time. It's always a good time to have Joan on. What I'm going to do here, though, I know we had at least one story from yesterday's pocket collection, which was actually Joan's, so I want to make sure we've got that close at hand. But maybe what I ought to be doing here, just to bring myself up to speed, this is the sort of thing you should do in what we would call show prep, if we ever did anything like that. And if we do, I'll begin letting you know about it. But I should have scrolled back to see, all right, what's been on Joan's plate this whole time. And let's see, as a matter of fact, the last thing that actually that hit the front page already has been what is the story we were talking about just yesterday, but which I'll save for later. Oh, and there's a nice note already from Joan. She's here's your behind the scenes update on what goes on. Just now, she is posting the latest on the shutdown, and she'll be right with us, which is great, because then we'll figure out what's going on with the shutdown. But I had put aside yesterday, look at all this that has happened even since then. But the story yesterday of that time Donald Trump admitted he didn't pay any taxes, and in fact that he not only did he say that during the debate, but that an hour later he was denying that he had ever said it, which it's amazing. There's no other way to deal with this guy except, I guess, catalog, document the atrocities, as we often say. All right. Well, rather amazing. We should have a good lineup. So we'll wait for Joan to post that good stuff so that all of the rest of our friends who, for whatever reason, refuse to listen to the show live, but we're sure they're all listening to the podcast later, they like to read, quote unquote, read the news online rather than come on here and hear me fumble around with it. I'm not really sure why that is. Okay, let's see. Other interesting things to take a quick look at. What did I put aside here? Oh, look at that. A New York Times story that I've run out of clicks for the month. Luckily, we're close to the end of the month, and I'll just eliminate that one because, of course, I won't be able to read it to you. But one of the things that lots of people are chattering about during this morning. All right, and let me see if I can skip over. Oh, there's one more that snuck in under the wire. Very slow pocket today. You hear me stretching this out, trying to make room for this? Yes, I see a lot of the journalists trading this one this morning. Apparently, James Carville had a nice prediction before the debate, which appears to be coming true, that the day after the debate, Roger Ailes, the Fox News rapist, as we like to call him, he's apparently working hard behind the scenes, trying to plant the story in the press that he didn't have much to do with the debate prep. Because remember, we talked about this yesterday. I should have guessed that this was coming. I wasn't thinking about it in these terms, but Carville always is. It was clear that the debate was a disaster and that we had forgotten, I thought, or it looked like the media, the journalists at the major mainstream outlets had forgotten that they had spent the previous couple of weeks reminding us that Roger Ailes had been brought on board for debate prep, and we all needed to tremble in our boots because of this. And P.S. also it was this major scandal, except that we didn't really treat it as a major scandal, that the guy had just been fired from Fox News for raping everybody, and what the hell, Donald Trump was going to hire him for debate prep anyway, which was just a terrible idea on a number of levels, and even just on the crudest possible level. This guy, Trump, has got a huge problem with women in the election, not to mention the huge problem he has with women elsewhere. And Roger Ailes was not likely the kind of guy who would be able to fix that for him. Well, he didn't, and it turns out that our complaints yesterday about all of this, of course you would have to overlook all of his horrendous sexual harassment record because the guy is just a stone genius, and you got to let it go and pay him what he wants to be paid in order to avail yourself of that genius. Except it didn't do him any damn good. So today's story is, well, I didn't do anything. I wasn't really helping with the. He did his own thing. And now today's stories are, they're trying to report that, but they're also adding, to their credit, I think the journalists say, yeah, that's not really likely to fly. But we're also hearing slightly different versions of the story, and we'd like to include that in our write-up. This is New Debate Strategy for Donald Trump. Practice, practice, practice. Chief byline on this one goes to Patrick Healy, though I suspect, I think I saw that there were several contributors to the story, but because I can't read it anymore in the original, I can't tell you. I got to depend on Pocket View for this one. But at least I get the text right. Campaign advisors to Donald J. Trump. He's the Republican nominee for president, in case you didn't know. It's linked here in the text. Concerned that his focus and objectives had dissolved during the first presidential debate on Monday, plan to more rigorously prepare him for the next face-off, with Hillary Clinton by drilling the Republican nominee on crucial answers, facts, and counterattacks, and by coaching him on ways to whack Mrs. Clinton on issues, even if he's not asked about them. Which is, of course, what you were supposed to have been doing for the first debate. But I think the subplot of this story is Trump wouldn't let him because he didn't believe there was any way to improve his performance because it's perfect as it is. You get the idea. Anyway, whether he's open to practicing meticulously is a major concern, however, according to some of these advisors and others close to Mr. Trump, while analysts from both parties and several focus groups declared Mrs. Clinton the winner of the debate. Mr. Trump tried to claim that title for himself on Tuesday, citing unscientific online surveys, and told his advisors that he believed he had done well in the first half hour of the 90-minute event. A delicate approach to the candidate is now in the works, because you got to walk on eggshells with this guy. Before his advisors can shape Mr. Trump's performance for the next debate on October 9th in St. Louis, which, contrary to speculation, he does plan to attend, a top aide says, they need to convince him that he can do better than he did in the first one, and that only a disciplined strategic attack can damage Mrs. Clinton with voters. Advisors said that Mr. Trump had been prepped to handle Mrs. Clinton's attacks on Monday, but did not effectively execute responses to them. Execute. So talk to your football coaches about that. Republican allies of Mr. Trump said he needed to exploit what they see as her vulnerabilities. People know who Hillary is. They've seen and heard about her for 30 years. Sean Spicer says he's a chief strategist for the RNC and works for a Trump campaign part-time and might even get paid for it. I don't know. And what needs to be done next is that he's seen as the element of change. Even as Mr. Trump's advisors publicly backed him on Tuesday and praised his debate performance, they were privately awash and second-guessing about why he stopped attacking Mrs. Clinton on trade and character issues and instead grew erratic, impatient, and subdued as the night went on. The answer for you guys, free of charge, not that you would pay me anyway, even if we agreed on the contract, is your man is erratic, impatient, and subdued as time goes on, and there's no fixing it. Joan McCarter knows this to be the case. In fact, let's just answer the phone here and bring Joan in to confirm that. I think that's pretty obviously true. I bet Joan does too. I was just saying, Joan, reading from the New York Times, Trump's advisors are, it says here, privately awash and second-guessing about why he stopped attacking Clinton on trade and character issues and instead grew erratic, impatient, and subdued as the night went on. I think you'll probably agree, because that's who Donald Trump is. He's erratic and impatient, and that wasn't really the aide's fault for making him so. It's just that they haven't been able to beat 50 years of habit out of him in a week.
70 years.
70 years, yes. Well, I don't know what he was like as a kid.
I imagine he was a nightmare as a kid.
Yeah, that would be my guess. That's true. I just haven't seen. He hasn't written the book about what a genius he was as a kid yet.
I'm just gonna bet he was a nightmare, and I'm going with 70 years because
all right.
I just am. I'm like that.
I'm easy on that point. I think the rest of this article, I think, is somewhere buried in here is the new whisper of the day that Roger Ailes says, no, this wasn't me. I didn't prep him for this debate. I was just hanging around talking about how I, sexually harass everybody at Fox. And, but yeah, the allegation is that when Ailes was around, he pretty quickly figured out that Trump wasn't really interested in working hard on debate prep. But was interested, and this fed Ailes' own ego, in listening to him recount campaign war stories and probably some sexual harassment war stories as well, and complain about how he's been unfairly treated and all this, because really he was doing a favor for all those women, and Trump probably agreed that he was, and they decided to talk about how they take advantage of women instead, and then voila, he shows up at the debate and it didn't go well. But that's not really Roger's fault somehow, because reasons. So that's the, I guess, mission of the day for the Trump staff is to make sure that nobody believes it was their fault that the debate went that badly.
It was nobody's fault. Well, it was the mic's fault. It was a bad mic.
Right. Defective mic, I think. That was a good, which I did see a great tweet on Twitter the other day, Angry Black Lady, saying defective mic is his Coke dealer. That was a great line.
It is sort of curious how a defective mic couldn't project his voice somehow, but all of
heard
the
him just
sniffs you could hear.
Yeah, that is odd. It picked that up.
It was his breathing, he told Fox.
Well, it was. That's true, but
yes, he
it's
wasn't
not supposed to be like
sniffling.
that.
He wasn't sniffing. He was breathing, and somehow the mic picked up his breathing, but it didn't pick up his words, which didn't occur to me as a problem that night. I heard him loud and clear.
There's a good transcript of it. I think the best I can do for him by way of explaining that is, in the hall, you can't always hear exactly what it sounds like either out there or on TV unless you have an ear monitor. But of course, if you have an ear monitor, then somebody takes your picture with it and they think it's a listening device, and you're getting clues from your clueless staff about what to do. So they don't wear those ear monitors for that reason. Then you can't tell what's going on. And then I think he also was genuinely shocked that people didn't shut up for him every time he interrupted. So he thought, oh, my mic must be off.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what he thought. I think he thought, no, my microphone is defective because that woman won't shut up. I am talking over here. You don't hear me. That's what it is. It's not that you're an idiot or that you are actually a strong enough person, woman or otherwise, to just talk over me, male or otherwise. No, it can't be that. Oh, I understand now. It's the microphone. That's what it is. If they could hear what I was saying, they would shut up.
That
smart.
makes sense.
So that's my guess. He's wrong, and I don't know whether we can convince him of that. I also don't know whether there's cocaine involved or not. I put that out there because Howard Dean actually said that and hasn't changed his mind since, which I thought was a little odd, but, what has Howard Dean got to lose on it?
Well, yeah, nothing. I mean, somebody's got to put it out there, right? It would be irresponsible not to speculate.
Many people are saying it, and many people are saying it, and he wasn't the first one. It wasn't like people took their cues.
The Twitter jokes came up immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, and it didn't really sound like sniffles, like congestion sniffles to me, but it's just, he breathes funny, and he talks fast, and that's the way he draws breath in between, and in a...
I haven't heard him do that in other speeches, have you?
I've heard the sniffing before, or I guess I really should say, I've seen people say on Twitter, what is that weird sniffing? But at rallies and things, when he would get agitated, I don't know why he won't...
Maybe it's a nervous tick.
Could be. But, it's a real thing. I don't know whether his nose is really running, but he breathes funny, and that's okay. But
he sure drank a lot of water.
Did he?
It was sort of Rubio-like there. The first time that lunge down to get the glass of water.
Oh. I saw a still shot of that, and I said, I missed that one, but I was probably tweeting something fun.
Undoubtedly.
All right. Well, I had yesterday, I was going to bring up one of the stories as part of the immediate post-debate wrap-up, but I thought I'd wait, actually, till you got on just to have some fun discussing it. I didn't notice that he had done this post-debate, but you caught that he, within an hour of the end of the debate, denied that he had said not paying taxes makes me smart.
Right.
When 100 million people watched him say
it. Right.
I didn't.
It's Trump. I didn't say that.
Just that.
How many times did we hear him say, I didn't say that in the debate? The first time, I think, was global warming is a Chinese hoax.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Right. Now, I'm confused as to whether or not that tweet was actually deleted. I saw some people show screenshots that would indicate that it had been deleted, but then I've seen other people retweeting it this morning, and I don't know whether they have some archive of it from which they're retweeting, but do you know?
It would be ridiculous at this point to delete it.
It would be.
Because since 2012 it has been retweeted so many times, it's been saved in so many places.
Yeah.
It's ever, Deleting it would be stupid.
I guess I should.
But we are talking the Trump campaign, so.
That is true. But yeah, there were a lot of people just sort of tweeting around screenshots that appeared to be indicating that this thing had been deleted. But then again, I find out this morning that a lot of, well, you know how it is on the internet, lots of things are fake. This morning's big reveal was that something that got traded a lot last night, that the Trump won hashtag had originated in Russia, St. Petersburg specifically, very widely shared yesterday. And this morning, a lot of doubt cast on that one. The original source was purported to have been trend maps for some kind of Twitter related app that tells you where, what's trending in different cities. And the map that was shared is not one of theirs. It doesn't look like theirs. So I don't know where that came from exactly. I wish people would stop making crap up. It makes us all feel foolish when we believe it. But I guess we're never going to get past that.
That one, we shouldn't have believed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one to look at with a little bit of skepticism and wait until it was debunked, which it was. I think by about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon, Eastern time.
It was a pretty odd one. I think I guess one of the more convincing bits of it, I saw it first retweeted by Louise Mensch. She's still in Parliament as a Conservative member of Parliament in the UK. So it was, I guess the thought there was, why is she? I guess she's just not a Trump person, as most conservatives really aren't. So maybe that's why she retweeted it. But you would think that she would. I don't know. For some reason, I thought, maybe she will have checked into the validity of this thing. Why I would believe that?
A politician?
I don't know. But then I saw
it was a goofy one. What, however, has not been debunked is that he won all of those online polls through Freeping, which we knew.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. Everybody does that, which is why they warn you constantly: don't pay any attention to online polls.
Right.
But, okay. Not everybody has.
Although Donald Trump pays attention to online polls.
Yes.
He tweeted again this morning
I won
how
everything.
pleased he was to have won all of the online polls.
Sure. Why not?
He won the debate.
Yeah, well, the rules, don't really apply to him, so whatever. And I guess that doesn't bother him. And I imagine he doesn't look at anybody's answers to his tweets anyway. I don't know how he could. So.
No, there's too many.
Yes. Well, there's a lot.
Although he does retweet replies that he really likes.
That's true. Somehow things do occasionally stand out. I guess when things quiet down, he can see when people say, Donald Trump, you're like my God. Oh, I should retweet that. That won't offend anybody. But he loves to tweet those things out. All right. Anyway, I just thought that was pretty amazing. But par for the course, we had just seen him do it in the debate itself. I didn't say that. I didn't tweet that. I didn't just say that 5 minutes ago. Whatever. I guess I knew that he was going to do that, and I wanted to see it live. So I did. And I liked the way he corrected Lester Holt on everything, too. That surely played well. Good tweet I saw about that one.
Right, stop and frisk is unconstitutional. No, it's not.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the court is...
Federal court says so.
No, they didn't. Yes, they
did. No, they didn't.
Okay. So that was good. Somebody tweeting yesterday.
About the level of his lawyer going on television and saying, says who?
Says who?
Says who?
Says the Supreme Court. Well, we'll see about that. I don't know. But, yeah, the imaginary exchange that was tweeted around yesterday of the beginning of the debate. Or the end, right? So thank you for listening. Good night. I'm Lester Holt. No, you're not? Okay. Moving on. I guess I'm not. So
I was pleasantly surprised by Lester Holt.
He did it very well in a couple of places. I was he got run over in a few too, but the moderator can't make the debate about themselves. That's true. Maybe we should have Donald Trump moderate a future debate. Then there'd be a lot of fact checking. It would be wrong, but it doesn't say that the fact checking has to be correct. I'm checking to see whether you guys are listening to me saying your facts are wrong. But yeah, he did, I think, reasonably well, and certainly on the Iraq War thing, short of unplugging Trump and kicking him, there's no way to have done better. No, you're wrong, despite what you say. So, that wasn't terrible for him. But beyond the debate, I also note that, let's see, you got the metrics on this one. Trump achieves new personal best in the debate. A lie every 2.65 minutes.
Actually, it was less now. I'm just seeing a tweet now.
Less.
That he only spoke for 44 minutes of the debate. So 34 times in 44 minutes. I was giving it the 90 minutes. The entire span of the debate. But
wow.
So yeah, he really achieved a personal best.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's an interesting bit there. How do you factor it? Is it the lies per minute that he's entitled to, or the lies per minute that he takes, whether it's his turn or not? But if you're just talking about when he is speaking, how much of what he says is like, can't lie when he's not saying anything. That's
right.
That's a good, that he should rely on that, and he can pad his stats that way by saying less.
So 34 times in 44 minutes is like every minute and 15 seconds.
Yeah, I would guess. Closer to that. So congratulations to Donald Trump on not only a personal best, but a new world record as it happens. So
indeed.
Pretty good. And aside from the debate, though, you just said you just finished on a piece about the latest shutdown news, which I guess we're now moving into the non-shutdown news phase of this.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Probably. And it's Paul Ryan to the rescue.
Really?
Which is going to make life even more fun for him.
Well, it was nice knowing you, Paul. It was, I'm sure, fun, the big hammer that you got when you were speaker, and enjoy your retirement.
As you know, because you've been paying a lot of attention, right?
Yes.
The big fight has been over whether or not there is funding to help Flint, Michigan.
Yes. That much we know.
Because Mitch McConnell doesn't want to help Flint, Michigan. And, you can debate as to why. Perhaps it's the population of Flint that he objects to, that he does not care about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he has been intent upon not allowing funding for Flint to be included in this bill, despite the fact that the water resources bill passed the week before all of this started, 95-3.
Yeah, that explanation
no problem at all
gave us last week was great.
Senate Republicans in passing Flint aid as long as they think it wasn't going to pass for real.
Yeah.
Because the House bill did not include, the House Water Resources bill did not include that aid. Mm-hmm. So they could say, sure, I voted for Flint, knowing that money wasn't going to happen. Because Democrats have made this such an issue, and because House Democrats as well have made it such an issue, Paul Ryan dropped his opposition and has worked out a deal with McConnell and with Nancy Pelosi to pass a water resources bill, to bring it up, amend it with Flint aid, get it through so that they can get the conference report done by the December deadline. They won't do it probably. They might get the resources development bill passed today in the House with the Flint amendment, but it couldn't go to conference this week. It's not going to be passed in full, but there is the promise now that there will be Flint aid by the end of the year.
Well, I should hope so. And it is, I think, even getting to be embarrassing for enough Republicans that it's certainly possible.
12 Republicans voted against cloture yesterday on the supplement or the continuing resolution. that McConnell put forward, the bill that has all of the Louisiana aid but doesn't have Flint aid. Yeah. McConnell doing his regular thing, trying to force votes on unpopular legislation, thinking, I don't know why. I don't know why he has to every time have multiple votes on something he knows is going to lose. He thinks it makes the Democrats look worse?
I don't know.
I don't know why he does it. But anyway, I think I think it was their third vote yesterday. 12 Republicans voted against it. So, that kind of breaks the idea for McConnell that it's Democrats refusing to fund the government. And could be one of the things that is pushing him to make this compromise with the House.
What kind of people are the 12? Who are we talking about? Do you know? You've got your usual Mike Lee and Ted Cruz, who are, angry at something. Lindsey Graham was mad because of what was he mad at? Export-Import Bank, I think. So, okay, so
the two crazies and a handful of conservatives.
Yeah, kind of hard to read exactly what.
They weren't opposing the Flint issue, but there was enough else in it that they didn't like.
Okay. Well, you got to put together a package that works for everybody, and
you have to do it by Friday.
Yes, that's true, and they may actually work this Friday.
I think they will work this Friday, and I think they would rather work this Friday than think that they have to come back next week.
Oh, yes, right.
Because, Now, what this is going to mean is that December is going to be kind of a free-for-all when this funding runs out. Last I saw, it was going to be December 9th.
Okay.
And, a lot of it's going to depend on how the election washes out. But that could be when Paul Ryan's Freedom Caucus, when the maniacs really decide to raise hell.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be happy that Paul Ryan worked out this deal with Nancy Pelosi.
No, I'm sure that'll freak him out. Well, I mean, and something would eventually, but
something always does.
That just makes it that much easier. So they push this only till December 9th, huh?
Yeah.
That's unwise, but I guess election's done, and some guys it'll be their last chance to come back to Washington and act important. So it's possible early December is not out of the question. Though in many years, when they've done their work, when they've actually appropriated money and finished up making sure that the dollars are there to match the budget, they often just take off in early October and never come back until the next Congress. So.
We don't have a budget, by the way.
Oh, well, what would we need that for anyway?
Right.
It's all about, I don't know what, trickling down. Just, it'll come in. You'll all get money eventually. There's no reason to plan that sort of thing, as far as I can tell.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, but then again, remember, we were promised regular order, so I'm sure it's coming.
I'm sure. So I don't think we're having a government shutdown this week, and I think that they'll be able to get through it by Friday. At the moment, the Senate is going to be voting to override President Obama's veto of the 9/11 bill.
Yeah.
That allows people to sue governments, to sue the state sponsors of terrorism.
Yeah,
in this case, Saudi Arabia.
Do we have a read on how that override vote goes? That's a dangerous override vote.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't.
Yeah, okay.
I think the House can do it, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, Pelosi said she's going to vote for it, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing. I mean, Republicans will go crazy for it, of course. It's a fantastic opportunity for them to vote to override the president and to actually maybe have it work. There'll be a lot of Democrats who want that legislation in place, and there's not a lot of really satisfying answers as to why it shouldn't be in place.
Yeah, there aren't. In terms of diplomatic relations and all of that, Obama had to veto it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to fault a Democrat for voting to override.
Yeah, I don't know.
This one.
I would guess that hopefully soon we'll hear some good background stories on this thing, and I would bet, if I had to speculate on it, and I have to because there's 40 minutes left in the show, I would say we'll probably see some stories after the fact, particularly if there is an override. Then the White House will go into that mode where they'll have to make sure that reporters know, whether it happened or not, that the president, through his aides, was quietly putting the word out to Democrats that, he had done what honor demanded in terms of diplomatic relations with the Saudis, and that they were free to do as they saw fit, and the White House wasn't going to hold it against them, besides which I'm on my way out the door as it is, and doesn't really damage me any for you to override. We'll find a way to close out the legacy in the next 100 and something days anyway, so I don't think this will be the thing people remember. But I tell the Saudis I did what I could, and the Constitution did the rest.
I think that you're probably right, and I think that we've already seen Nancy Pelosi say she's going to vote for the override, so I think that message has already gone out.
That's, we just have to wait for it in the newspaper at this point. Okay. Yeah. I think you're probably right. That's probably the key indicator on Pelosi.
I would say so.
Okay. I'll accept it.
Meanwhile, we have no vote on any judge that I can foresee coming up in the next 3 days. There are, I think, 30 pending nominations that have been passed through judiciary. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the big one that hasn't been considered by judiciary.
Right.
That makes it, let's see, I have to look at my stories and do my edition, I think, is day 227 since Scalia died. Yep.
Huh.
227 days since Scalia died, and 196 since Merrick Garland was nominated.
Tough call for people. He's only got 25 years on the second highest court in the country or whatever, but so clearly they have no intention of doing it any time before the election. That was pretty obvious from day one. I guess, is it still an open question then whether they would do a lame duck session? Does that still depend on who wins the election, or is it just...
Grassley has said no matter what, no. But, that's Grassley saying.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what difference the election's going to make? They could very well decide that Hillary Clinton could come up with a more liberal justice, so we'd better put this one through. We don't know.
All right, well, another unsatisfying wait-and-see situation, but, that was always going to be the story of this one.
Yeah, it was. And I still really feel very bad for Merrick Garland.
Yeah.
Who seems like a very decent person.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly appears to be, and has put together a fairly moderate record, and I suppose there are certainly a number of things that he's done decisions he's participated in where I've said, hey, that's disappointing. But nothing horrible, and just it gets to the point where I do feel bad about people who spend that kind of life in public service and really had every reason to believe they might one day sit on the Supreme Court, and then see that instead they're a pawn in a game. That's got to be kind of disheartening for a D.C. Circuit Court judge to find out.
Yes. I mean, he knew that going in.
Yes. It's sad.
But at the same time, I keep going back to watching that ceremony where Obama nominated him and made the announcement. and he was so genuinely pleased
Yes.
and humble and thrilled
Yeah.
to get this nomination. I feel bad for the guy.
Yes. Well, it's a tough world out there, and it's what it takes to rise to that level. I'm sure he'll do okay either way, but yeah, that doesn't make it any less or more comfortable to watch.
No, it
We're
does
sensitive
not.
people. That's why we take pains to take other people's thoughts and feelings into account. There's another half of the country that thinks that's lame, essentially, and a way of basically submitting to other people's nonsense, and they'll direct how you feel from here on in. Thank you very much. But I'm not ashamed of it. I'm with you, Joan.
Oh well, I'm too nice for this job, I think.
I know. You're just one of, it's the part of coming from real America, if you will.
I guess so.
Which is all over the country, wherever real
Believing
people
that
live.
there should actually still be some decency left in politics? What am I thinking?
that's
I've been
crazy.
doing this job for long enough. I should be over that.
Right. No reason why we shouldn't jettison all of that in exchange for millions of dollars from Russian oligarchs.
Well, now, if there were millions of dollars from Russian oligarchs in the mix, that's a whole different ball of wax.
Yes. A huge, classy ball.
Yeah.
All right. What other things are on your mind these days? I know what they keep you busy with. What would you be doing if you
remembered
didn't
what I
have
wanted to
do that?
revisit. And
Yeah.
now I can't remember his nickname.
Oh.
The guy that sells the tickets.
Oh, Abers.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
But
okay.
his nickname. What was his nickname? We had it last week.
No, did we? Yeah. Let me see. I have a story on him still tucked away on this guy. I wonder if I can find it. There we go. Was it from Fortune magazine, that one?
Yeah, it was from Fortune magazine.
Yeah, all right. I put that away last time we spoke. So let's see. His nickname, huh? My computer's a little slow these days. All right, let's see. The ticket broker guy. Looking for. I'm going to skim down here and see. It's a hell of a story. And his name came up again in the last week or two.
Well, it came up yesterday in Fahrenholt's latest.
Yes. It just says Ticket Man here, which
Ticket Man.
He was calling other people booby all the time.
Yeah, he called people booby, and he was called. I'm sure his nickname was in
Ticket
there
Man
somewhere.
is not very interesting, so I think there's probably another one in there. Fats.
Fats,
Is that the
yes,
guy we're
he's
talking about?
Fats.
Okay, there we are.
So Fats is in the news again as being one of the people who directed or who paid part of that $2.3 million to Trump that ended up going to his foundation instead of Trump. So Trump income.
Yeah.
Fats was one of the people paying these huge amounts of money, not to Trump, but to the foundation. Now, presumably this was Trump, I don't know, loaning or selling for the night his great tickets or events at his golf clubs or, using his box at some arena or something.
Probably.
I'm not exactly sure what the transactions
It's not
were.
really made clear, is it?
But Fats was one of the guys sending all of this money, paying Trump by paying the foundation.
Yeah. The
Or
whenever he would-
diverting income
Yeah.
to the foundation, to put it more bluntly
Right.
or accurately.
Rather than paying Trump for the tickets that this guy would buy from him and then resell to other wealthy people at enormously inflated prices, don't pay me for them, even though I own them personally. Instead of paying me, make a donation to, everybody else in the world believes that he said, make a donation to the Donald J. Trump Foundation. But Trump's advisor, Boris Epstein, says, no. He simply said, make a donation to the charity of your choice. And
you don't have to pay me.
Yeah.
Make it to the charity of your choice. And if the charity of your choice is the Trump Foundation, well,
yeah. What can I do about
yeah.
it?
So there were payments totaling nearly $1.9 million
Yeah.
from FATS.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I wonder if he deducted those since he was paying the foundation. Did FATS think he was entitled to a $1.9 million tax deduction or totals of $1.9 million? No chance. I mean, there's no leverage that we've got to pry his taxes at him. We haven't been able to get Trump's taxes out of him, and he's running for president. Ebers has no reason to give us his. But I wonder whether he'd answer that question. It might get him in trouble, true, but he might come off as somewhat more sympathetic if he were to say, well, yeah, he directed me to give money to his foundation, and I thought, well, it's a charitable foundation, and I guess he doesn't necessarily know that the foundation doesn't own the tickets. I guess it's entirely possible that Trump might have bought season tickets to something like, I don't know, the Yankees box or whatever, with foundation money because he's that foolish and commingles his funds all the time. And he might justify it even by occasionally giving away tickets for a charity auction or something like that. And but to Ebers, he may say, all right, make the check out to Donald J. Trump Foundation. I don't know how they structure things. He says, do it, I do it.
Well, and in fact, two people familiar with the transactions, Farenthold Rights, who requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak about the payments, say Ebers was instructed to pay the Donald J. Trump Foundation instead of Trump.
Right. That's right. I heard that.
He was directly told to pay the foundation.
At least these guys say so. I think Epstein's new story is, no, they weren't. So,
Says who?
You take that. Yeah, that's essentially it. And it's going to be awfully hard to try and figure that out, and it's not likely to be definitively answered before, like courtroom definitively answered anytime before the election. But there really is an awful lot here that if the guy wasn't running for, I guess if he wasn't running for president, we wouldn't care. No one would look into it. But now I want to know. And one of the ironies of our system is we're less likely to find out now that he actually wants the keys to the nuclear arsenal, whether he was doing this or not. But investigative reporters will have to give us the only answer we're ever going to get. And Farenthold, I'm taking his word for it that he's doing his reporting right.
Yeah. I mean, he's showing us his notes.
Yeah. He actually, he's photographing his notes and tweeting.
Yes, and publishing them.
So, yeah. He's used social media to great effect on that one. So I would love to know, and I would love for Ebers to recognize that he does well by coming out and speaking about it. He's not going to be able to have a business relationship like this with Trump afterwards anyway, so I don't think he's got a tremendous amount to lose.
No.
So he might as well say what
you
happened.
know, when Trump loses, he could very well continue on with this activity.
I guess so. Although I imagine that Ebers' lawyers would say no more paying the foundation, even if they, or at least no more taking.
Chances are,
deduction.
yeah, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, well,
the rules don't apply to these people.
Largely true. I don't know how personally wealthy Ebers is. I didn't get that from my quick skim of the article, but yeah, moving in those circles. You know, I imagine he feels like he's entitled to some additional breaks on his taxes here and again. So, but I'd be very curious to find out, and that would tell us a lot. If he took that deduction, it would mean almost certainly that he had been directed to pay the foundation and had been told that it was okay to do. But that would lead to a new question of who owns those tickets.
Right.
So, Farenthold, if you're listening, we need to find out who owns the tickets that Ebers was buying and what they were, and who was taking deductions for what.
Well, supposedly they were from Trump businesses.
Yeah, that's the problem.
From Trump himself or for Trump businesses.
Yeah. Well, there's many questions to ask, and many they'll all be answered with denials from Boris Epshteyn, who's taken on this enormous role all of a sudden in this campaign, and of course Hope Hicks, who nobody knows how she's able to do this all by herself, will also deny and or refuse to comment on these things, but in a way that makes us all think she's working very, very hard.
Right.
I don't know. That's the big. She's come out the best, although I've seen a lot less of that lately from reporters. They're just not so impressed with her anymore.
No, not anymore.
I
am really hoping that one of these debates will get into the foundation thing.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think it would be pretty good to hear about the results of the Clinton Foundation's work versus the Trump Foundation's work.
Yeah, and it will lead to a lot of similar fireworks, because certainly it seems every time I bother to take a look, the Trump world still believes the line about that hardly any of the money that went to the Clinton Foundation was used for charity. Remember that? That was the original narrative, which didn't take into account that the Clinton Foundation's overhead included actually doing the charitable work.
Right.
But, they still believe that somehow the Clinton Foundation is worth several $billion and that the Clintons kept it all. So that wouldn't make for a bad debate topic. I think Hillary might like to answer some questions about that. Maybe that'll be the one Chris Wallace.
That'll be the third one.
Yeah.
The next one, the town hall. Gosh, I wonder if you could get Fahrenholt in the audience in the town hall.
That would. Hello, I've been randomly selected. Yeah,
that's on October 9th.
Okay, and that's the one in St. Louis?
That's in St. Louis. Okay. It's Anderson Cooper and Martha Raddatz moderating. And as far as we know, Trump's going to show.
So he says until he says he's going to. And this time, if he says he's going to go raise money for veterans, it's not going to work.
No, people aren't going to buy it this time.
So he should have saved that one. All right. Well, so far, I guess only a few people have floated the idea that he might not show up, but the rest of Trump world is invested in assuring us all that he will show up for one of 3 remaining obligations.
And this time he'll be prepared. Nope, there are only 2 left.
Yeah. So down to 2, I guess. He's got to show up. Well, he doesn't have to go anywhere for Election Day. Okay. So, 2. 2 is it.
2 is it. October 9th and October 19th.
Okay. And
Chris Wallace is October 19th.
Okay.
The vice presidents are October 4th. You didn't ask, but since I have it here in front of me, I offered.
Yeah, that'll be interesting as well. Although...
No, it won't. It's going to be very boring.
Trump or Pence is not like Trump.
Or Palin.
Sense. Yeah, right. I know. I guess I was thinking about that. Oh, surely, if Donald Trump is this ridiculous, then his vice president is even worse. No, it's usually the other way around. They're usually more boring. But Palin spoiled us in that sense.
Yes, okay. She really did. Pence is boring, but that doesn't mean he's not evil.
Right. The most evil ones are well, that's the whole banality of evil part. They're boring, too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's fun to think that his political career is probably circling the drain. I say probably because I feel a lot better about it post-debate. I have a hard time thinking that America could watch that and stick with him.
Yeah, it'll be...
But a lot of America is terribly racist, so there you go.
True. Well, so they've got that going for them. Tim Kaine ought to take that apart nicely, and it will be a good opportunity for him to remind everyone, one, that Trump originally, anyway, said that the whole idea here was he wanted to pick somebody who could handle governing day to day while he did whatever he does, whatever he has planned for himself as president, yelling at people, maybe putting on a hard hat and looking like he's supervising construction of the wall or something, and that Pence would be the Dick Cheney of this administration and So excellent opportunity for Tim Kaine to say, well, if that were true, which we really don't have any reason to believe would be true, but assuming that it happened, what would that mean for America? It would mean the following horrible things. And then Pence would say, I guess he retreats to the, I never said I wouldn't do that.
I don't know that he can get away with saying, I never said that.
It will be interesting to see whether it just only works for, it doesn't really work very well for Trump, but everybody accepts that he's going to say that. I don't know whether, I guess we'd all be surprised if a regular politician just started saying, nope, wasn't me.
Nope, I didn't say that. Says who?
Yeah. Right.
And, it's surprisingly effective. I've dealt with 8-year-olds who've said this, and really there isn't an answer for it. You say, I say, and then you just get into back and forth. Yeah. And that's sort of like what Trump is. He's an 8-year-old. Says who? And how do you effectively answer that? Other than bringing up the tape.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
which people now just say, you doctored that somehow. I don't know.
Speaking of racism in this whole election, ABC News and Washington Post just finished another poll, and they sort of shockingly asked an important question. Do minorities have too much influence in society? 38% of Trump supporters believe that's true.
38?
38. You think it'd be higher.
Quarter, but yeah, you would have thought.
Well, 38 who are willing to say it out loud. Percent.
Yeah, I don't even know I wonder what they thought the question meant even. Have too much influence in our society. I don't even know exactly what it is.
Stupid ads. That was me.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hear. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah, hopefully no one else did either. But yeah, so what does that even mean? Too much influence in our, like that they shouldn't have any, or that, I don't know what that means exactly. That's a weird question, but easy to fall.
But it's interesting to me that ABC is starting to ask questions like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before it was just PPP who would try to delve into ideas of are you racist?
Yeah.
Starting with,
good point.
Do you think Barack Obama was born in the United States? It's interesting to me that this is something that Washington Post ABC is going to branch into.
I am glad to see it, although, again, it's another one of those moments that makes you say, you remember way back when PPP would poll something like this, or we would ask them to poll something like that, and everybody was like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. What a dumb question to ask. Dumb kind of questions to put to people. It's not an issue. This means that you're not serious. But you uncover subcurrents in major stories that are, the only plausible explanation for very weird happenings. And eventually
Donald Trump is the Republican nominee.
Yes, things like that. And eventually, the rest of the mainstream media eventually comes around without ever acknowledging, of course, that years ago you recognized that this was an issue and began polling on it. How did you come to that conclusion? No chance of that ever happening.
No chance of that. But it's enough to have, changed the debate, I guess.
Yes. It's nice to see that is happening at some level and that people are paying attention to it.
It's just too bad that it's happening with Donald Trump as the Republican nominee.
That's what it takes. And
did you ever have a few surreal moments in the debate thinking, that's Donald Trump. What's he doing there?
I think I've grown used to it. But, I guess it happened usually when he would just do those really quick interjections, speaking over either Lester Holt or Hillary Clinton, and just say, wrong, false, I didn't do that. Although it reminded me a lot of John McLaughlin, the way he used to do it. Wrong!
Yeah, that's true.
So somehow he was okay with him. But, that's, I guess, where I came closest to it. Was that surprising to you? Does that still happen to you?
It still happens to me. It was just such a surreal experience watching half of a actual presidential debate and half
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Thank goodness for the split screen. I hope we continue with the split screen because that's pretty important.
Yes, it's more important than ever before. Usually, well, part of the training is not to do the crazy facial motions that Trump goes through because you're not supposed to show that sort of thing. But yeah, the way he cocks his head and raises the eyebrows and pouts and stuff, it's very revealing.
Very revealing.
And
of a
it's revealing
monster.
of a terrible person. Yeah.
He's a monster.
Right. It is. I'm sorry we have to actually let people vote on this. I really feel like this is something we ought to be able to handle by unanimous consent, but everybody is demanding a vote.
We need unanimous consent for life.
Yes. But apparently we're gonna have to have a roll call vote on this one, but they won't record your name on it. That's good. So everybody take your chance to go ahead and vote. And I guess you know what? Now would be a particularly useful time to remind everyone once again, you've made up your mind what you're doing for president. You may already have made up your mind, of course, what you're doing down ballot, but your neighbors might not have.
Right.
People in your neighborhood. It's a good old Sesame Street song I'm thinking of now. But who will need your encouragement or your phone calls that your dollars can help pay for, and we can help facilitate that happening so that people get out there and actually also hand over a legislature that's capable of doing something with Hillary Clinton as president.
Absolutely. And in fact, you're going to be hearing a lot more from Daily Kos on that starting this week. With emails coming out from our campaigns team with all sorts of resources for helping and get out the vote. And we'll be including resources on getting out the vote in all of our elections related blog posts. Mm-hmm. So you can find it everywhere. And if you are in a neighborhood that you don't have to worry about that's going to vote correctly, you can use your cell phone and phone bank into swing states and swing districts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's there's any number of ways in which you can participate. Sending your dollars is always helpful, but using your voice and using your time even more so.
Well, I'm glad that we'll have some new tools developed in the past couple of years, and so do we have some new things this year?
We've got a lot of partners this year. We're working with PCCC. Yeah.
Yes.
3 C's. Move On and Next Gen in a variety of efforts where we're combining their volunteers and all our volunteers, using some of their infrastructure, using our bodies to make these phone calls.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we can help facilitate some of that stuff. I've also seen some great tools developed elsewhere on smartphone apps checking to make sure that you are actually registered to vote.
We're running out of time for registration in a lot of places. So if you haven't done that, if your friends and family haven't done that, that's where to start. But do it quickly. Yes, and you can do it from convenience of your own phone, and do double check. Even if you say I've voted all my life and I've never changed my registration, don't want that surprise on Election Day. Although there are remedies, and we can tell you about them in future shows. But you're better off knowing when you get up on Election Day or whenever you intended to cast that ballot. You're better off knowing what surprises lay in store for you. And let me just say, particularly if you live in Ohio, because they have been just dumping people off of the rolls. Yes. So if you live in Ohio, you're not absolutely positive, just check your voter registration. Very true. And because this stuff has been done more or less at random and with terrible data at that, even if you think you are not in one of the targeted demographics, you may just be out purely by mistake. Not that they would care one way or the other. Because you have a common name. Because the neighborhood you live in, anything. Yeah. Anything. So do be sure and use those tools. And you'll begin to see a lot of those
tools attached to the posts on the front page will make it entirely impossible for you to ignore it.
Absolutely. There's no way you're going to
job.
sit through this election.
We won't let you. It's not possible. All right. Well, thanks for discussing all of that, Joan, and keeping us up to date on what's happening with the shutdown or non-shutdown, as the case may now be. I hope so. No one really wants that kind of disruption, and I didn't really care to game out the political advantages of that. It sucks and should never happen.
Yes.
So I appreciate your bringing us up to date on that and sharing your thoughts on the nights they kept you up late working on the debates.
You're most welcome.
All right. Very
Talk
good.
to you next week.
We will do that. Looking forward to it. Thanks again, Joan. Joan McCarter
Bye-bye.
is our senior political writer at Daily Kos and makes a regular Wednesday appearance here. Thank you again for coming by for that one. And it breaks up the week so nicely. Wednesday's the right day to do it. That stupid hump day commercial, right? Well, there's reasoning behind that. Getting through a week of these shows, it's fun. It's therapeutic, but it carries some difficulties with it too. And I love to be able to have Joan and Greg to lean on for that, and hopefully soon on a regular basis, Josie as well. I'll check in with her and see whether she's free for Friday. And coming soon, I'm sure, to a theater, not really, near you. Additional Daily Kos voices. We're working the angles, trying to get one of the latest additions to the front page, a Twitter powerhouse, Propane Jane, to make an appearance here, and maybe we'll be able to talk her into making that a regular thing too. Somewhere along the line, though, I guess at some point, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if it didn't rely on me to run the show every day, right? If every day I knew that I had a good hour plus of help, although I've been wringing an hour plus of help occasionally out of Greg, and that's been fantastic. But hey, if we could just take care of the other hour, then everything would be solved. Then we'd only have to worry about why do I have to get up in the morning? And that's a problem I've been working on for a long time anyway. Okay, time to wrap things up then and hand the microphones over to the after show for the real news that we missed in all of our chuckling and irrational speculating about all sorts of things, and catch up on the items which I usually have tucked away in pockets somewhere and then complain that I didn't get a chance to bring to your attention. Thank God we've got the after show. And it's Wednesday, and that makes it Wednesday's Child is Full of Woe Wednesday, and that means, well, nothing in particular, except that it means they'll be delivering the following items to your listening doorstep. The United Nations says racial terrorism against blacks in the United States endures, gee whiz, and calls for reparations. That's putting us in a tough spot. But the UN, hey, we host them. What can we do about that, right? What an interesting development that is. They'll be talking all about that. Plus, Georgia sheriff's deputy who threatens to arrest a breastfeeding mom after she reminds him it's perfectly legal to breastfeed at the Piggly Wiggly. She should have taken out a gun, and then there would have been no question. And from intentionally turning off body cams to raising the cruiser's hood to block dash cams, police, it seems, go to great lengths to hide their use of force from the public. Isn't that amazing? We knew as soon as they decided that the answer to all this was cameras, that they would just go to any length to simply block the use of the cameras, erase things, forget to turn them on, what have you. Now we're finally starting to get those stories. More, though,
From
after
Daily
this.
Kos Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show.
With David Waldman.
Here we go. For the last half, they'll report that a new study concludes staple crops like wheat and rice won't be able to adapt to climate change in time to continue feeding the world. And a bunch of coal companies sent through lawyers to crew a small armada of sailing frigates to the United States. Wow, my goodness, I'm losing track of it. Stay tuned. You'll hear all about it.